Hey everybody, welcome back to FSi DFS. Hope you had a wonderful weekend as we head into this small 6-game Monday slate. Salary, I don't think it's really going to be much of an issue at all. You can pretty much get the top two pitchers in Cease and Gilbert. You're going to need a little bit of savings from the bats. It does get a little bit tight, I will say, but it's definitely possible. And after them, salary is not going to be an issue at all because there's nobody above 8.8 after those guys. So let's dive right in. And yeah, here we go. Dylan Cease, Logan Gilbert, top two guys, 9.8 and 10.3 respectively, both in very favorable matchups, both at home. Dylan Cease, he's going to give you a higher upside. He's struggled as of late, and you can kind of see it right here. We're looking at 3 or more earned runs in 5 straight starts. 20.2 hasn't really cracked over 20 DK points, and when you're paying 10,300 salary, you're wanting at least 25. I typically go by like that 2.5 rule of your salary. So you're hoping for at least 25 DK points from a guy at this price range, and he's certainly capable of getting it with his strikeout upside. I think his over-under strikeout prop is 7.5 or 8.5. I can't remember exactly which one, but it's certainly up there, and it's definitely higher than Logan Gilbert's strikeout prop is. I think Gilbert is 2 lower than Cease. Gilbert, he's got a nice fine matchup facing off against the White Sox. He just doesn't bring you that upside that Cease can bring. I think he does give you a little bit of a better floor, but still, I think I'm going to be taking Cease over Gilbert if I did have to rank the two of them. And I did. I put Cease over Gilbert here, as you can see on the sheet. Going down into the mid-tier, I didn't know if I wanted to go with Rodon. I didn't know if I wanted to go with Fedde. I really couldn't decide, but I think they're both fine. The case for Rodon is that he is just pitching very well, very consistently. He provides you with a nice floor. He's got 6 straight quality starts, which is just phenomenal. So 6 innings pitched or more with 3 or fewer earned runs. He's doing fantastic. And he's going to bring you that consistency. The issue is that he's facing off against KC. That offense does scare me quite a bit. But regardless, I think that Rodon is certainly in play. The teams he's faced have not been juggernauts by any means. Minnesota, they strike out quite a bit. The White Sox, the Angels without Trout. Houston, they are not Houston that we know from years past as well. So there is a little bit of a reluctancy with that, but still, I think that he's going to be able to provide you with a nice floor game. If you go with the Eric Fedde route, now remember, this guy, he changed up his whole pitch mix. He was over in Korea in the KBO last season, took a season off from the majors here, and he dominated. He won the Cy Young equivalent over there after changing his pitch mix, giving him a little bit of a better strikeout rate here in the MLB, and honestly, he's pitched a lot better so far this year than he has in his career. He's facing off against Seattle. We all know that Seattle strikes out the most amongst anybody else in the entire league. So certainly, you got the strikeout upside here, but I do not trust his floor as much as I would trust the floor of Rodon. So do you want to chase the strikeout upside with Fedde facing off against Seattle? And honestly, Seattle's 7-8 games above 500. They're doing something right, even with all these strikeouts in their lineup. Or do you want to go with more of a floor route with Rodon, but maybe not as much of a higher strikeout rate? After them, you got Berrios and Lugo. Lugo, he had one bad start, and he saw his salary completely tank. But I do think that this is a more appropriate salary for Lugo. When he was at 9.6, I mean, what were we doing? It was too much. It was too much. But he's got a really, really tough matchup facing off against the Yankees. Juan Soto, though, he is still day-to-day. Thought he was going to go yesterday. He didn't, so still unclear if Soto is going to be in the lineup for the Yankees here tonight. If he is, obviously a little bit more of a knock towards Lugo. If he's out, a little bit of a bump to Lugo. You guys don't need me to explain that one. But 8.4K, I still think that this is kind of where he should be lying. His surface numbers look phenomenal. 2.13 ERA, 9-1 record. But, the underlying numbers, his xFIP, his whiff rate, hard cut, all the underlying stuff shows that this guy's due for a little bit of regression, BABIP, all that. One thing I do want to note with Lugo, though, as well, is just the drastic home road splits. You can see he's been absolutely dominant away from the ballpark in Kansas City. Is it still Kauffman Stadium? I don't know. But regardless, at home, he struggled quite a bit. And I wouldn't say struggled. I would say, like, this is where the numbers should be for him when he has, like, regular BABIP and all those kind of, like, luck factor statistics or whatever. So I think that this is more in line for Lugo. And like I said, 8.4K, he's fine. Just a brutal matchup going off against the Yankees. Wouldn't be opposed to just skipping this mid-tier completely and then just going and playing Paddock. Or even Arrighetti, but mainly Paddock. Paddock's got a great matchup facing off against Colorado. Colorado strikes out a ton. Paddock, he has the upside that we're looking for. He's at double-digit strikeouts in a couple of his games so far this season. So a higher strikeout rate against a very high strikeout team. The ceiling is certainly there. Colorado, just a bad offense in general. So I think that if people are looking for savings, it would not shock me if Paddock gets quite a bit of ownership. But how much ownership is he going to get when I don't really view the bats as expensive at all? Like, I'm already going to tell you, like, Minnesota is going to be the top team on the slate, but you compare Minnesota with a team like Houston and you're barely paying for anybody over 4K. So do you need to go down here to Paddock? No. You could, and certainly get, bank in on like 5 to 7 strikeouts or even more, and really get some other top tier bats if you really want to go in that direction. After Paddock, I think I would go down to Arrighetti facing off against San Francisco. Just a brutal start for this guy to start off the season, but he's pitched a whole lot better as of late. Still a little bit of control issues, which is alarming and concerning, but he's still a sub 7K pitcher who's able to get you 6, 7, 8 strikeouts as well. So he's certainly going to be in play, and San Francisco shouldn't scare you too much as an offense. So let's head over towards the bats. I feel like that's kind of where everything lands in terms of pitching. Minnesota, they're going to be your top bat on the entire day. They have the highest implied run total. They're facing off against the worst pitcher on the slate, and Dakota Hudson. Royce Lewis, his salary, I think he's third highest priced guy who's healthy, depending on Soto. So he's certainly in play. It's going to be a little bit tougher to fit him in if you do want to go that Dylan Cease and Gilbert route. You can certainly put Royce Lewis in there if you wanted to go a little bit cheaper at pitcher. But one thing about third base, though, is if I'm going there and Bregman is healthy, I'm going to be taking Bregman over Royce Lewis. Bregman facing off against Harrison. Harrison's a pretty even splits pitcher, so with Houston, doesn't matter, lefties, righties, and Bregman, aside from Aaron Judge, who is just putting up absolute video game numbers right now, Bregman might be one of the hotter hitters in all of baseball. At 4.2K, he's going to give you a little bit more of a savings. But if we are looking back at Minnesota, definitely going to be focusing on the left-handed bats here. So Larnach and Kepler are going to be the first two guys that I'm going to be putting into my Minnesota stack and going to be having interest in. You could throw in Willie Castro if you do want to go in that route, a nice switch hitter. And like I said, Royce Lewis certainly in play, but at close to a 6K price tag, it's going to be tough to get in like those two top guys if you go in that like Cease and Gilbert route. Let's just throw them in here just to see where salary shakes up. Yeah, you can already see 3.4K, but let's go over to Houston here. Houston already talked about how, Bregman would probably be the first guy I'd be putting in. But Pena, he's got nice numbers, but I think I would go with Yandy Diaz. Is it Yandy Diaz? I always get the mix. Yandy or Diaz. I always get the Diaz's mixed up. But 3.7K, I think this is a really nice start for your bats. It's possible. It's possible to go with these top two pitchers, but at the same time, I would totally understand going there and then throwing in Paddock for the strikeout upside, and now you're looking at 4K remaining for everybody else. Salary, not going to be too much of an issue, really, at all on this slate. I said Aaron Judge. Let's talk about the Yankees. Let's go over here. Yeah, in terms of the top tier, it's Minnesota, giant gap, and then just a bunch of other. Am I excited about them? No. But am I excited about playing, any of these leverage stacks against the popular pitchers? No. Am I excited about playing Seattle against Fetty or Casey against Rodon? No. Or Yankees against Lugo? No. Like, there's not a whole lot to like in terms of the bats. But so I do think that there's a pretty big gap between Minnesota, Houston, when you take into account salary and everybody else. Because, yeah, Houston, look, I know I just covered them, but with Tucker on the IL, 2 guys priced above 4.2K here with Bregman. And even Bregman's injured. Only 2 guys above 4.1. Very, very cheap. This is not the Houston salaries that we've come to expect from years past. All right, heading over into the GPP, I think that the Yankees, with Lugo's splits, really, I don't want to say struggling at home, but technically struggling at home, and what this offense has been capable of, especially recently, I think that's going to be your favorite GPP play. Aaron Judge, I mentioned how he's just putting up video game numbers. He's past 10 games, he's averaging 21 DK points. Like, he's performing better than your ace pitchers. Like, it's wild what he's been putting up here. You can see over here all these numbers that he has been putting up. It's just hilarious. And his salary hasn't budged a wink. I have noticed, DK doesn't really like to go above 6.5K. It's kind of where they max out in terms of their bats. But still, Yankees are certainly all going to be in play. Rizzo is a lefty-righty matchup, but Rizzo is just a shell of himself. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Honestly, he had that concussion, what was it, last year? I think it was early to mid-season last year. Had that concussion at first base, and ever since then, the numbers have just, tanked for him. But again, he's just really struggling so far this season, so I really don't have much interest in him there. I would definitely be targeting Verdugo, who's cheaper, also in a nice lefty-righty matchup, if you are going to go in that direction. But yeah, Judge, Stanton, if Soto is in, try to jam him in. It probably means that you might have to fade one of the top, or both of the top 2 pitchers, but you could probably jam one of these guys in here. Let's just see. Let's go with Gilbert. Let's go a little bit cheaper. We'll throw in Paddock for a cheap possibility of an 8 to 10 strikeout ceiling game from him. Let's jam in just a bunch of these big Yankee bats and see where our salary. Can't do that. Too many out. I mentioned this earlier, early on in the season, how I'm gonna hate stacking the Yankees because I want all their outfielders. All right, we'll say Soto's out. We'll go with Stanton and then Judge. 3.5K remaining. I don't know. It's ugly. Stacking the Yankees is ugly because there's so many outfielder eligibles, and then trying to find a team to stack with them who doesn't have any outfielders as part of their stack is very difficult to find as well. But regardless, I think the Yankees are going to be there. Seattle, they're a good team. They just strike out a lot. Maybe Fetty doesn't get the strikeout numbers that we're hoping, and Seattle bats are still continue to thrive. Julio Rodriguez obviously going to be starting off that stack. But yeah, so that's kind of where the slate lands. It's kind of ugly, to be completely honest with you. But I don't think salary is going to be too much of an issue. Jam in Minnesota, Larnach, Kepler, jam in Bregman if he's going to be healthy. And I feel like those 3 as your starting bats should be lining you up for a nice start to your build. So good luck in your contest. As always, thanks for watching. And Mega Roller is going to be back tomorrow to take over the Tuesday and Wednesday slates. See you.